Hello and welcome to Moonstone Monday. In this video I'm going to be making Fancyhat's Townhouse, and I'm not just going to be making it, I'm going to be pimping it to the max. I want to use some techniques that I use quite regularly on a lot of my MDF buildings, but I'm also going to try to push this a little bit past where I normally do and really go the extra level and make an awesome bit of scenery, playable terrain that could be used in pretty much any game, to be honest, not just Moonstone, but obviously I'm naming it for Fancyhat because that's what it's called when you buy it from TT Combat, and this is available to buy on their website. I'm not affiliated with them, but if you want to get this, then go check out TT Combat's website. You can find it if you search for Fancyhat. I think you pretty much find it just with that search. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you don't want to comment, that's fine, but if you do, that really inspires me. I really hope this gives some tips and some hints, and maybe gives you some ideas of what you could do to make your MDF terrain look awesome on your tabletop. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you again at the end. Well, I was just chattering away on the Moonstone Discord, and I believe there is an invite to that in the footer of all of my videos, so yeah, go and join. It's a brilliant place, really friendly. And a nice guy called V-Rex was chattering away about two things that Tabletop Scenics make. One of them Fancyhat's Townhouse, and the other one was, just one second, Agatha's Stone Moon Tavern. And yeah, I said, oh, why they don't sell those? I've never been able to find them. And then I went to my stash, my mountain opportunity, and I found that I actually already own Fancyhat's Townhouse. And I think it must have been the Stone Moon Tavern that wasn't in stock last time I checked, and Fancyhat's was, and so I picked it up, and that went into the backlog. Following this conversation, another guy, Avlahop, has also asked. They were saying they really want to see what it looks like, but not just with the official photography, official pictures, and I really want to make it. I bought this a little while ago now, and it just sat there. So this has jumped completely, vaulted over everything else that was going to be happening next, and I'm now going to do Fancyhat's Townhouse. So I will find the instructions. One of the good things with TT Combat is that they don't waste paper, so you will find the instructions at the website. So I will just do that. I'm not going to print it out, just going to look at them online. I'll get it out of its single-use plastic and get that binned, find the instructions, and then we'll have a look at putting it together. And the main part of this video is not going to be the assembly. I'm not going to film very much of the assembly because it's a MDF kit. I've done a lot of those videos, and yeah, they're basically test fit everything, read things 3 times, and you'll be all right. What I'm going to do is focus more on how I make it look awesome once it's been assembled. So like the pimping and the additional stuff that you can do to turn a MDF kit into something awesome. And I am going to get Agatha's Stone Moon Tavern ordered, and I'll make that when that arrives as well. So anyway, let's get to this. Bit of a rambly intro, but let's get to this. And yeah, we'll have a look at the sprues together, and then I'll probably assemble most of it off camera, and then we will get to making it pretty. Well, there we are, and that's pretty cool, because I'd completely forgotten that these come with the shingles, which is awesome. Because I do buy shingles, I have shingles I buy them from Sarissa, but having them there and cut to the right size is great. I've got the instructions downloaded. They're not hugely clear, so I'm going to be very cautious with this. I'm going to look to dry fit everything, but I think what I need is this base here. This is one of the walls, and these 2 walls, and then I'll need to have that one on the front. But as I said, I'm going to dry fit, get them out, cut them out, have a look at it, and then when I'm very happy I've got it right, then I will use PVA glue to glue them in place. But like I say, I'm not going to do much on the assembly on this video. I'm mainly filming because, yeah, that's a real bonus. I'd forgotten that TT Combat did that. That is brilliant. You don't get that in many kits, that you actually get the correct shingles pack for the kit. You have to kind of buy it separately and cut it yourself. So that's really awesome. So the first thing I'm doing here to work on the making it awesome is actually, before I assemble it, for the inside I'm sealing the PVA just with MDF, too many TLAs, I'm sealing the MDF with watered down PVA, because what I will be doing is painting this interior, and I might even paint it before I assemble, which is not normally my method. However, if you look at that beautiful kind of like artwork and those tiles, I think particularly that floor I should look at painting before, so I can get it done really nicely. I've dry fitted all these pieces and I'm happy that I've got the correct pieces, and I'm not too worried about sealing the outside, because that's going to be dealt with in a different way, which you'll find out, which you'll see. But I think this inside I am going to paint, and I'm going to paint. So yeah, just a little bit of watered down PVA. It's a good sealant for MDF, and it will mean that your paint, when it goes on, doesn't immediately soak into the MDF, and then you have to do many coats. So that's what you're trying to do. Anyway, there we are. So this is probably going to slow down my progress a bit, because I'm going to need to have this dry, but it will be dry in about 15 minutes or so. It doesn't take long to dry, and then I can think about what colour I want to paint that inside. So there we are. Just thought I'd show you that. So I'll let that dry, and I'll bring you along if I do start on the painting first, or whether I do the assembly. I'll bring you along on the next step when I get to it. Right, so I've decided that I am going to paint this, and the first thing I'm going to do, I've got this just white house paint. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the white, what this is, a black and white squares. And the other good thing about using this, or the good thing about using house paint, not just because it's cheap, which is obviously a very good thing, is it does actually dry really quickly, particularly when you put it on an MDF. So very much by the time I get to the end of doing this, I'll be able to go back over and do my second coat without any trouble. And then once I've done the white, what I'll do is I'll very carefully mask off the white areas, which is why I'm not actually too worried about going over a little bit at this stage. And I will then do the alternate black. So I'll do black and white checkerboard, and then I will probably do the sun and the moon with hobby paints, and I'll do that downstairs on my hobby bench. But what I'm going to do is paint all these squares white, and then when I've done that, I'll mask it, paint black. I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. I'll probably show you what it looks like when I get to the masking stage. Alright, so I've done all the white, and I've painted the inside walls white. Whether I leave it like that or not, I don't know, but I've painted the inside walls white. And what I'm now doing is masking off to start painting the black. So I wasn't totally sure how I was going to do this. It's going to take a little bit of masking to complete. But what I've decided is I'm going to mask basically so I don't have to like keep moving it. I'm going to be able to do every other one. So I'll mask down this one, and I won't be able to do these 3 squares obviously, and I'll mask across there as well, and then across there, and I'll paint what I can, and you'll see what I mean when I finish doing this. So I did that wrong, 1 second, need a longer bit. Yeah, so I'll mask off like this, and then when I've done this, these squares, I will then mask over the ones I've just painted black as well, and I'll be able to do the alternate squares, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. It's funny when you try to verbalise something which makes absolute sense in your head, and then it doesn't really come out right. Anyway, so I'll get this masked, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done, and then I'm going to start painting the squares black. This is what I was trying to explain badly. So I'll be able to paint these ones with the black, and then when that's dry, I'll mask down here, down here, down here, and I'll be able to paint these ones with the black. So I'm going to get that done now, and I'll let you see what it looks like when it's done. I'm also going to very carefully paint these. I don't need to mask these off. I should be able to do that neatly enough. But yeah, so I'm going to paint these with the black, and I'll show you what it looks like when I've done. Well, that started out with a disaster. Look, I had too much wet. My brush was wet. I started using this one, which I just washed previously from the white, and the paint was so wet it went straight underneath the masking, and it went onto the white. So I'm going to have to touch that white up. But I think after that, as you can see, the first couple. I think after that, yep, look, it's worked okay. So there will be a little bit of white touch up to do, but for the most part, that's turned out perfectly. So what I'm going to do now is just paint these little blocks up here, down here, like I say, wait for that to dry, and then when that's dried, what I'll do is I will mask across again, and I will touch up this bit, wait for that to dry, and then mask off again. So anywhere where there's bleed, as you can see, just these first few was where I made the mistake. So the tip is really press your masking tape down very hard, that's one thing, and two, don't wet your brush because it will cause the paint to wick into the wood. Even though I sealed it, just one coat of PVA wasn't enough, and then it went in, lifted the masking tape, and yeah, caused that damage. But anyway, other than that, everything else, if you ignore that bit, looks great, doesn't it? So let that dry, finish it off, I'll show what it looks like when it's done. Right, so I'm not going to do very much about the assembly, and I'm not, but this is something which I think is going to be helpful for people if you're going to buy this kit and put it together. I've just spent a fair bit of time trying to work out which piece goes on the stairs, because the instructions are a little bit cryptic, and what it is it's actually these ones here, okay, and then these pieces here. It doesn't actually show the step, it doesn't actually, it just kind of shows it constructed like this very, very badly in its picture. But what you do is we're going to glue that onto there, and then these slot in here, and that's how that works. So yeah, I just thought I'd show that. It's taken me 2 or 3 minutes to work it out, and it's not 100% obvious how that it should go like that. So yeah, hopefully that helps. So what I'm on with now is I've painted the bricks last night, and then right now just using the pencil to line in the edges of the bricks so they're visible again. Really simple technique, but it works really well. These are the side stairs, as you can see. I've made use of clamps when I was assembling it, so that's another little tip for assembly. And what I'm now going to do is paint this and other wooden elements, like I like the panels on the doors, so the ones that I'm not going to replace later, and also going to paint the inside of that probably with the Winsor & Newton roll rumble, which I really like as that. So I will do that, paint all the other bits that I'm going to do now, just get that all painted over, and yeah, and we'll see what we're up to after that. I really should hasten to add actually at this stage that what I'm doing on this kit is not something you necessarily need to do. You could basically get away with what I'm doing here with some paint on the wood areas and some paint on the in-between areas. However, I'm going a little bit extra on this one. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be spending some time with this thin balsa wood, and it's very thin balsa wood, and I'm going to cut out the shapes roughly of the wooden bits, glue it on so it's got a bit of a 3D texture, and then I'll be doing my normal texture between. Once that, I'm going to do this before I glue it together, I think, and I'll do the texture that I use grout mix for around the edge as well after it's been assembled, because that will then help me to hide these gaps. So yeah, basically I'm going to be attempting to carve. So I'm going to measure that height, cut across, make it a bit wobbly, stick it in place, and then come along and basically do the same for all of these bits and for all of these. There's lots of it to do, it's going to take me a while, but that will look amazing, even to the extent of doing these little bits here. Now I think there's something that I need to stick on over the top of these, which I might do as well as part of this step, so I'll just be double checking before I work on these side bits, because I think there are surrounds that go around that circle and these half moons, and I'm not even sure whether there might not be that go around these, but I don't think so. But by the end of this, what we'll have is we'll have all of the surrounds on, and I will have improved this by putting some wood over. So yeah, it's going to look really nice when it's done. So I've just dry fitted the floors together just to check them out, and I'm glad I did, because what I've found is that inside on the top floor I'm going to need to do some more squares, as there's some gaps where the walls don't go, so I'm going to have to paint those up So that was an interesting thing to find. As I said, they're just dry fitted at the moment, there's no glue. I've also painted up the shutters. Now, one thing I'm a little bit disappointed about this kit, I must admit, is the way this is going to look inside. So I'm putting a lot of effort into making this look nice. And then the way that the shutters are going to go on, just pull that out, you just kind of glue it on behind like that. And then that means that you've got this big lump of whatever inside, which isn't very sightly and doesn't really look very nice. So I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to cut them out maybe and slot them in, or whether that will just end up being a complete nightmare and not very possible at all, or whether I might just not put them in at all. I don't know, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think that's a little bit of a disappointing way of doing it, that you have this big slab on the back when you're putting your shutters in, particularly because shutters are normally on the outside. Anyway, it's a small thing. Everything else is wonderful. I'm really enjoying it. I need to get in and paint the moon and sun, but I think I might leave that until I've got everything ready for that sort of thing. So if we have a look on the second floor, we've got some motif here as well, and there are plenty more of those sorts of things left in the sprue, which I've not even got to. As you can see, moons, and there's one. So I might leave that and do that all at once. So I might just keep assembling and keep working on this. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove the walls and put in the extra half squares here and along the sides of there, and then I will get stuck into doing the MDF, the balsa wood, like I said I was in the previous clip. The reason I stopped is I wanted to see what it looked like with the corners. I wanted to have a quick look at how it assembled, but it's going to be okay. So yeah, so I'll get those two things done. I might show you a little bit of how I do the balsa, I'm not sure. But yeah, really enjoying this. It's a really good little kit, and it's nice to put a massive amount of effort into something and make it look beautiful. I don't know if this is me being blind, but I can't for the life of me see anywhere in the instructions where it explains to you what to do on these bits. And I have realised that I should have done this earlier, as now I'm going to have to paint again because they're going to be visible through on the floor. But anyway, so what you're going to do, and they are different, there are two different shapes for each corner. You're going to find these little bits of the sprue, cut them out, and then they actually kind of dovetail together quite nicely. Oh, sorry, get that in the right place. I've got my monitor backwards, that's confusing. So they dovetail together like that, and that then is how this floor will be kept sat on top of the walls below. So there's going to be 4 of those, and that will then that will then be secure. As I said, I've just looked for all the instructions, can't see anywhere where it explains that, so I thought I'd quickly just show you that in case you're going to build this as well and then get confused like I did. And the next step for making this awesome, pimping it out, is I'm going to varnish the floors. So I'm going to be painting this next, the motif, but I'm going to varnish both. I'm going to paint that and then varnish everything. I'm going to do gloss varnish so it looks like tiles, and I'm going to do a gloss varnish over this as well once I've finished painting the motif. So that's cool. I've made a good start actually on the balsa wood, so as you can see here, and I've also made a start on adding in both the balsa wood on this one and the supplied wood. Now that is making me wonder whether I shouldn't be using some thicker wood rather than that thin balsa wood, so I might actually end up peeling that off and using some thicker. I've got some thicker boards of balsa wood, but also I don't have very much of it, so I don't know, I'm kind of umming and ahhing about that at the moment, but yeah, pretty much really happy with how this is going. I've lined around the outside of all of the windows with blue as well now, just to have that as a kind of a nice motif, and the little kind of like lanterns or whatever, painted them yellow. I've got a brighter yellow to put on, and then I'm going to actually probably put some fluorescent paint on there as well. But yeah, slowly but surely getting there. Really enjoying this. It's just nice to really stretch myself, though this has taken probably two times as long as it would normally do for me to do something like this, but I think it's probably going to be 5 times as good, so probably a good investment, in time. Alright, so I sprayed these for varnish and it's worked okay, but what I've done is I've found my old yacht varnish, and when I say old I mean old, and I had to use a nearly done in knife to pierce the skin so that I could get to the varnish that's inside. Now there's plenty of usable varnish in there, it's just skinned over. So what I might do is keep that knife with this pot, and then whenever I need to open it I can just pierce the pot to pierce the skin, sorry, and everything will be okay, because yeah, I hate waste. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this very glossy yacht varnish now. Now it is alcohol based, so it is a bit stinky, and you don't want to use well, you either want to get some white spirit or something that you can use to clean your brush, or just use a brush that you don't care. I use a brush I don't care. And I'm going to put that on over the top of all of the tiles, because I really want them to be gloss. I don't want them to be matte at all. So yeah, so I'm going to get this done, and then as you can see I'm pretty close to starting to assemble. I'm umming and ahhing about how I'm going to go about the order of assembly, but I'll come on to that in the next clip. For now I'm going to get this done, and then I will bring you back when I get to the next step. But for now I'm just going to put the gloss over all of this, all of the tiles. Angela was an absolute diamond for me the other day. So my very favourite paint for painting roof tiles dried up completely, and I couldn't find it. I've been looking for it for ages, and she's managed to find it. So there we are, we've got it. Yeah, so what I can do now is, as you can see, I've done a little bit of blue on there. That is actually the shades that go over the windows downstairs. And what I can do now is just very carefully paint over these. Now I will need to touch up where the tabs are when it's on the roof, but painting it like this will be easier, I think. And when this dries, it's a fantastic colour for tiles, and if I'm not happy if it looks like it's going to be covering up the actual tile, the tile lines, so the drawing of the lines, I'll cover it again with a pencil, but I'll let it dry first, because sometimes as it dries they come back. But I'm just going to be a little bit careful of that. If you want to avoid that, some spray paints do avoid actually doing that, but it's pretty hard to avoid because this is just laser cut cardboard, and so it's actually not all that deep where those lines are. So yeah, anyway, I'll get that done and I'll show what it looks like when it's finished. I'm nearly done on this actually. I've not actually done any assembly really, which is quite unusual for me at this stage. Normally I do all these things with it fully assembled, but this time I'm doing it like this, seeing how it works. So I should start with the assembly soon, I hope. Anyway, enough rambling. I'll get these painted and bring it back shortly. Well, we're getting towards the assembly time, like I said in the previous clip, and just one other thing to show. I painted these, and they've come out nicely, but they bowed up badly, so I stuck paint on the back and they're flattened out. Really nice when that works. Doesn't always. Anyway, so what we've got to do now, and I'm getting a bit fed up with this, I kind of want it to get done, but I want to do it right, so I'm not going to rush. But what I need to do now is I've stuck these, the supplied wooden beams on the outside here, and I actually accidentally stuck two onto these ones as well by mistake, which is wrong. So I've cut them off now, which wasn't actually too hard to do, thankfully. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my balsa wood running from here and overlapping quite a long way, so that when I glue this in place, I'm then able to run some glue down here, stick my balsa wood one on, and then I'll be able to cut it down flush, and it will look much neater. Now, if that doesn't make sense, then when it's done, you'll see what I mean. But I need to do that on both sides. So we're going to have balsa wood here going out a good, like probably 10 mil past the hard edge to make sure I've got enough. And I'm going to do that on both sides of this one, and this one now will fall apart probably, on both sides of this one. And then it will, yeah, and then we'll be able to start assembling, I think. I don't think there's anything else left to do on this that's preventing me assembling. No, there isn't. That's really cool. So yeah, so I'll get that done, get them glued in place, and then we'll get to assemble this, and then I'll go back and look at the second floor and see if there's anything there that's left to be that needs to be done in terms of the balsa wood, and then I'll assemble that also. So we're really getting there. The other thing is I've assembled and put together the last piece, which is this little kind of scatter terrain. Use the same techniques, use my fire orange, my moon yellow and my deep yellow for that painting, just the blue and the white house paint on this side piece here, and then again the kind of beigey paint, and I've lined it with a pencil. So that's worked out nicely, so that's pretty much done. Alright, let's get my balsa wood out, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's assembled. Probably that's probably the next time I'll film, because I'll just get this balsa on, slap it together, and then I can trim it. Oh, and my varnish has turned up perfectly. It was very yellow for a while, but I left it for what, 3 or 4 days now, and it's not yellow at all, which is quite a relief, because I thought I'd destroyed it. My ground floor's been glued together. I'm umming and ahhing at the moment about what I'm going to paint the outside of this, because when this is going to be glued in place, you can actually see some of that kind of poking out there. So I need to put some colour on that. So I'm umming and ahhing about that, but that's not a rush. I don't need to make that decision just yet. You can see that my overlapping sides has worked well. So what I need to do now is carefully run my blade down and cut away the overhang, and then what I'll do is I'll paint all the wood bits with my brown paint that I've been using, the same wood paint as I use for these, and I'll paint these, all the extra wooden bits that I've added, and I'll paint in that brown, and then we'll get to the grout. But I'll do the grout all as one. So I've got this base one done. I haven't yet started sticking the first floor together. As you can see, it's still in bits, but I'll do that next in exactly the same way with the overhangs, etc., to mask over these the edges of the other boards. And when I've got everything up to the same stage and painted with the brown, I'll bring it back and show what it looks like. But yeah, we're rapidly coming to conclusion on this, and I've had a lot of fun with it. Alright, so that's all solid. This should now be solid. As you can see, I use clamps to keep it together, which always a good idea. Yep, so that's nicely solid. So what we'll now do is let's just make sure I've not really badly screwed up. No, that goes together really nicely. Look at that. There we are. So that's the two levels. So the thing I need to do next, 2 things. Firstly, I'm going to paint all of the wood details in the dark brown. So that's one thing I'm going to do. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start working on the roof. So the roof, as you've seen, I painted up in the nice brick red, and I'm going to I'm probably going to come back with some hints and tips as to which bit goes where, because it's, again, the instructions aren't massively clear. So yeah, I think that might be useful. So when I come to do that, I'll probably film a little bit more. What I have done, I've painted up these little details here, and I didn't know where they went because they're not mentioned in the instructions. But if you actually have a look at the picture on the kind of on the packet, you can see that they're going here, here, and one can presume there, but they're not actually, that I can see, mentioned in the instructions anywhere. So I just thought I'd highlight that. And once all that's done, then obviously we've got the this here, which I also need to paint. I've realised I haven't painted that, which is a bit silly. So yes, I've got a few things I'm going to get done now in terms of the assembly and also the pimping process, and I'll bring you back, like I say, probably while I'm doing the roof, because I think it's going to be quite important to get that right, and it might be useful for people to see exactly which bit goes where. But that is looking wonderful. It's not far off. I'm probably not going to base this any more than it is now, so I'm probably going to leave this freestanding. I'm not going to put a surround base on it. So yeah, once I've done this and have finished with all of the pimping, then this will be done. So hopefully it'll be done in the next couple of days. Anyway, let's get to it. I realised a couple of things just as I came to do the final steps as well. I seem to be totally finding extra bits to do. Firstly, I hadn't painted the motif here, which I've painted now, and I've also done that on the inside. And also I'd missed actually a couple of the wooden beams on this upper level. So I'd missed the corner beams here and the corner beam over there. So I've had to clamp those in. And then these side panels have actually also managed to miss out on on the wooden beams as there. So you can see that on this one I've done one of the top ones, and then I've realised I've missed the side beams, so I'm going to have to wait for these to dry before I can do this side, and the extra ones I'm going to have to do on the other side. So that's a bit annoying, but I'm glad I caught it, because as you can see here, I'd got my grout out and I was about to mix it, and then I realised. So yeah, I'll finish that, get them painted to match the rest of the wood, and then we'll be able to move on and start to fill in the middle bits with the texture, and that will be pretty much the last step for this. And what I now need to do with my Super Pro pan, I also need to get these roof panels onto the roof, and as you can see, I've now painted up the little detail on top of the roof. And the other thing that I did that I realised was I've painted, oh, I haven't finished painting actually, I need to do some more, I need to paint the wood, so that's going to go back downstairs now. But I've painted the little motifs on there as well, but I still need to paint the wood, and on this end as well. Anyway, little bits of tidying up, very nearly done, and then I'll be able to get onto the grouting, which is what I'm most excited about. Right, so it's time to start working on my grout mix. So I've just mixed them up, and there's video linked in every single one of my videos below of how I do my grout mix, but simply put, it's 50% grout and very fine sand or gravel, very fine though, mixed up with a load of PVA and a little tiny bit of water, and that then is easy to apply using a brush. And I'm not going to film very much of this because this is not a very nice angle to be working at, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this round and spread this all over everywhere where I've not already applied either the balsa wood wood planking, and I'm going to even try to avoid that blue around these windows if I possibly can. So yeah, so I'm not going to film very much because it's really awkward trying to do this and keep it in shot, but yeah, that's the plan, and that will then give a texture, and I will then be able to potentially dry brush over the top of it if I want to give the final tone. But yeah, here we go. Might take 2 coats as well. I'll report back. I'll probably come back when I've done 1 coat and show what it looks like, but that's the trick. So that spread all over here, and that is something that this is a mix or material that I use for almost all of my MDF buildings, because you can buy grout in all sorts of colours and get any effect you're really looking for, and it works really well. It's almost like the secret trick I've got, which is use this grout mix on your MDF models. And ultimately you could have just done that on this. We could have got rid of all of the wood detail, just slapped the grout mix over the entire thing, and it would look really good, but it would have been what I was wanting to do. So yeah, you really can just cover any MDF model with this stuff. It sticks really well. So I'm a little disappointed and a little conflicted on this one. The grout that I picked out, I've got several colours of grout. I actually picked out the darker grout. I didn't want it this colour, I wanted it to be a lighter cream. Yeah, so it's a little bit dark, and I'm wondering if it's a bit dark across the board. So I've got 2 options I've got for here. I could apply the lighter grout over the top, which would give a little bit more texture, a little bit more depth, and might look quite nice. Or I could come along with one of my paints, which is similar to the colour I'm looking for. So I've got these little tester pots. Actually, that one's slightly open. Hopefully that's not solidified. Oh no, I didn't close the pot properly. And look at that. It's crackle paste. Ah! Well, that's a shame, because that was the one I wanted. The other one I've got is that one, which I know does work, because I only just used it very recently. So what I could do is I could come along, mix that one back up, and paint that on. So I'm going to stare at that for half a day. I'm not in a major rush, yeah, I'm going to decide what to do with the colour. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the roof. So the roof is on fire. No, the roofing sections are too long. They are not good. So I don't know if I've made a mistake. I'm not sure if I have. I'm not sure how I could have done, but basically what I'm having to do is on these ones, which are going to be covered anyway, I'm going to start cutting them in the middle, because if we have a look here, you can see it's wavy, and that's because I've had to bend and force and push to get them in, and these 2 before I realised what was happening. So on this one, what I've done is I've come along. Let's see if I can actually show you. If we started off here, by this point they're not lining up. So what I'm having to do is trim a few millimeters off on the inside of each of those slots, and that's what I've done on this one, which has made it join correctly. So it's one of the two that you want to do. You either want to make these slots slightly larger. Now it's not the end of the world because they're not going to be visible, so don't worry. Or for this side, maybe slightly easier is just to cut it in the middle, and that way it will sit flat and flush, and also be easier to glue. So yeah, progress, getting there, nearly done, pretty excited. So we've got before and we've got after, and I'm so much happier with that colour now. It's just too dark, too dingy. It looks like it's been left in a smoker's house, frankly. It's not the best, but this is just much more what I was thinking. So that was basically doing the grout mix over the top of what I'd done there. So I didn't have time to do two. I had a very few minutes, so I managed to get one done. And I thought, you know what, I'll let that dry just so I can see how it looks, and I'm very happy. So I'm going to do the rest of that one now, and keep working on the roof, and then I'll be pretty much there, which is cool. I should finish this, if not tonight, then tomorrow, which I'm very pleased about. I get to the final assembly parts now. I just thought I'd show you how they've done this at the back. So I left a gap when I did my did my grout mixture, which these stairs fit into perfectly. Excuse me, bit of a frog. But what I am going to have to do is touch up here and what have you with some more grout, because yeah, there is a little bit visible which hasn't been grouted. So I'll get that glued on, let that dry. I kept the grout in the fridge, so it should be okay overnight. Yeah, that will then be that done. The other things I've done is I've put these little covers on over here, the whatever they are, over the top of the windows, and I'm now starting to wish that I'd put some magnets on these, because if we look at the window, and I've mentioned this before, if we look at the window, it looks great with those in there. They look really nice, but you don't only want to have shut windows. So I'm umming and ahhing again. I'm still umming and ahhing about what I'm going to do about this, whether I'm going to put the windows in or not. I can't, I've had a look at the dimensions. I can't cut those out and stick them in. The actual shutters are done smaller than the window size, so that would, and I haven't really got the time now to carefully carve around these and put them in place like that, so I could potentially wedge them in place. That's not going to work. So I'm wondering if there might be a way I can, I can't do the magnets now because I won't be able to drill in because it's all assembled. That would be something you would have to do while this piece, all these pieces were still flat. You'd have to get all your magnets in. So yeah, that's not possible now, which is a shame. Like I say, doing this again, I might do that. But anyway, yeah, so I'm gonna have a think about if there's a way I can maybe build a shelf inside for it to sit on. I'm thinking that might be a little bit of a pain as well. Yeah, getting close to the end of this build. This is the last thing I need to do. I've got the weathercock on the top of the roof, so that is perfect. If that will focus in, my camera's a bit zoomed. Let's zoom out a bit. There we are, weathercock on. So yeah, that's now near enough done. I might need to touch up the paint a little bit on it, but yeah, so I just need to decide on these windows and the door what I'm going to do with them. So yeah, I will show you what I've done and then we'll wrap up. Well, I've decided to take this to the next level now, and what I've done is I've got some of these resources, some of these pictures, put them into Word and stuck a frame around them and printed them out. And what I'm now going to do is cut them out and put them up as paintings and pictures inside the house. So we've got the map of Tauber, we've got a portrait of the Baron, we've got another portrait of the Baron, we've got the Baron fighting here in this round one, and a couple of other bits and pieces that I liked quite a lot. So there's a backdrop, just a nice painting of Tauber. So yeah, so I will get these cut out now. Just going to use a safety ruler and a very sharp knife to cut all these out, and then get them stuck inside using a glue stick, and then once that's in, I will then varnish over them with gloss varnish so they look like they're behind glass. So that's my plan. Hopefully it'll work. I think it will, and it will really add an extra bit of bling to the inside of this building. Well, there we are. We've finished Baron Fancyhat's house, and yeah, pretty pleased with how that's turned out. So you can see that I've put on the little things that go on underneath the roof, and they look absolutely wonderful with the blue painted wood, and I've put that on each end. We've got the little kind of lawn ornament here, and I did decide to put the windows on because I just think it looks better with the windows. It's a shame for playability, but you can always say I open the window and then kind of go from there, I suppose, but it is a bit of a shame. But the whole thing's looking brilliant. The steps on the back are great. I'm really pleased with the texture and the colours. Pretty happy with how it's turned out all around, to be honest. So if we start to go inside, take the roof off, what you can see is I have put these pictures on, as I say. So these are the artworks that I printed out with a frame, and they look absolutely brilliant. They really do just set off the interior really nicely, make it look a little bit more lived in. Really happy with how the floors are looking as well. And then if we go down to the bottom level, you can see that we've got even more pictures down there. Obviously, the first thing you see as you come in through the front door is the Baron looking very sharp and very handsome and very dashing, which is what he'd want you to see. We've got the map of Tauber, and then just a nice picture of the local area there. And then on this wall, we've got some more pictures as well. So yeah, I really hope that you've enjoyed that. I've really enjoyed this build. It's been really fun pushing the boundaries and just trying to do things as beautifully as I can. And I think the thing that I'm most impressed with, if I say so myself, is the floor and that motif and those sorts of things. I think I really did nail the floor very, very well. What do you like best? Let me know. It would be awesome to hear what you think is the most inspirational or awesome thing in this build. And if there's anything you would do differently or you think I've done wrong. I love all comments. I don't mind negative comments, positive comments. I love them all. So yeah, let me know what you think. It'll be awesome to read your thoughts. So there we are. That's done. I can have another building for my hopefully coming soon Moonstone game, but we shall find out when that is. But yeah, this is now done, and I can move on to the next one. Well, there we are. Really pleased with the outcome, and it was a lot of fun. I did get frustrated towards the middle. I was basically dry assembling it and taking it apart and dry assembling it and taking it apart over and over again, and that's very frustrating because when you're not gluing it, some of those joints don't really want to hold up and it just kept collapsing. And that was getting on my nerves a little bit. But the actually the outcome of it is wonderful. I mean, it's as good as I hoped for, yeah, I used quite a few techniques. Some of them I've not done for a little while, some of them I do on all of my MDF pretty much. The grout idea is something I use a lot, but yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed that, and maybe that gave you some ideas, some tips. If you've got any cool MDF tips, don't be shy, leave them below. I love hearing them, I like taking them on board, and yeah, I really do appreciate all of the comments and all of the advice and suggestions that I get, so yeah, don't be shy. Well, anyway, if you made it this far and you watched it all, double thumbs up, thank you very much, really appreciate it. I will be doing another Moonstone Monday next week, so I hope you'll be around for that as well. And I'll wrap up by saying, as I always do to everyone, please do stay healthy, stay safe, and stay well.